Even though we are not, physically on Humber College campus at the moment, it's still really important to acknowledge the land that it is situated on. Humber College is located within the traditional and treaty lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit, Etobicoke, the place of the alders. In Michi-Saajiq language, the region is uniquely situated along Humber River watershed, which historically provided an integral connection for Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat peoples between the Ontario Lakeshore and the Lake Simcoe Georgian Bay regions. Now home to people of nations, Etobicoke continues to provide a vital source of interconnection for all. We acknowledge and honor the land we are walking on, the moccasin tracks of our ancestors, and the footprints of the future generations to come. All right, so today's presentation. Who says you have to follow a straight path? Advising transfer students. So I'd like to welcome Judy Tavares, Paul Vanderberg, and Jenny Teakin from Student Transfer Services. Thank you so much. Looking forward to your presentation. I will pass it over to you now.
Great. Thanks, Crystal. Just gonna share my screen. Oops. Sorry, can you guys see my screen yet? Oh, you can? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Oh, 1 second. I can't see my screen. Okay, there we go. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so thank you, everyone. And as Crystal said, thanks for joining us. It's Friday. It's not a long weekend, but I always feel like every weekend's a long weekend now. My name is Judy Tavares, and I am the manager of Student Transfer Services. And I'm joined today by Jenny Teakin, who is there, and she's our student mobility advisor. And when we're on campus, she is dedicated to our Lakeshore campus, as well as Paul Vanderbert, who is our student mobility advisor at the North campus. And today we're really here to give you an overview of what transfer advising looks like in the province of Ontario, and then specifically at Humber College. And this is, an area of advising that is relatively new. And like many of you, we are trying to forge a path for advising as a profession in this area. So we're hoping that we can enlighten you and give you a little bit more of information of what's going on, like I said, provincially and specifically at Humber. So just to kind of situate us, if you have questions also before we start, you can put them in the chat, but I think we're going to wait till the end to answer those. We should have time at the end to answer the questions, okay? So just kind of to situate where our area sits in terms of building a transfer culture at Humber, that's kind of what I say we're doing. So this area started about 5 years ago in the Office of the Registrar, and we're really, committed to creating a positive transfer culture that's really increasing accessibility for our students. This is part of our strategic plan under the Accessible Learning Pillar. And we're really, hoping that, the more and more students and staff and faculty increase what we call transfer literacy, the culture will just continue to build from there. There is a huge strategic value in transfer and welcoming students from other institutions. So Humber is both a receiver and a sending institution. So for us, it's good both ways. So we're really getting good students. We're backfilling our attrition when we're putting students into higher level semesters for pathway programs. And as you know, transfer students are mature students as well. So they're bringing a rich lived experience into the classroom, which helps both our direct students, our faculty, and all of the other students in class in terms of their learning. Again, as a sending institution, it gives our students a reason to pick us. So that's always important from a recruitment and marketing perspective, knowing that they have a lot of options, both here at Humber and at other institutions, is really important. And it does really help to demonstrate the credibility of our credentials. So the partnerships that we have, both, in Ontario and Canada and all it really does show that, you know, Humber's education is valued, and that if they go somewhere else, that education will also be recognized and valued. So in terms of, you know, our transfer student population, they are a really integral part to what we're trying to do in terms of building our polytechnic identity here. So I just want to put something out to you, because one of the questions was, who is a transfer student? We're going to talk a little bit about that. So I just put that in the chat, and I just want to give you guys, you know, 30 seconds or so, not take too much time around, you know, just who are transfer students, or from your experiences, what would you say a transfer student looks like to you in terms of, you know, maybe their adjectives, just an adjective or so, or some experiences. So if you can just pop one or two words into the chat, then I can just get a gauge and kind of what you guys know or think about transfer students. Anyone can put anything in there. Okay, sometimes mature. I like that one, Melissa, in quotations. Okay, college grad, a learner with previous post-secondary. University grad, yeah. Experienced. Those are all good. Okay. Okay, so this is kind of what or who a transfer student is. So these are some of the words that come up for us in the transfer world when we are talking about transfer students. So as you can see, some of the larger words that come up in this word bubble are things like isolated, stressed, overwhelmed, uncertain, worried, confused, isolated. So there's quite a bit of negative words coming up, but there's definitely, you know, optimism and excited and hopeful and happy as well. But, you know, from this word bubble, it's just showing you that our transfer students do come with a lot of anxieties. They come with a lot of uncertainty. And although they have previous post-secondary experience, we can't assume that when they're coming to Humber that they're going to just know everything because they've been to another post-secondary. Actually, going to another post-secondary sometimes can be a hindrance for them because they have, you know, they have the language and the jargon and the policies and processes from their old institution, and it's hard for them to transition to a new one. They may, you know, they may know a few things, but it's not the Humber way, right? So these words actually came from a provincial survey that was done by our colleagues at ONCAT, which is the not the governing body, it's a non-for-profit that brings together all 45 Ontario colleges and universities to help create a seamless transfer system in the province. And this was actually, it was a final report that they did, a student mobility report. And I know this is very small and you can't read everything, but you can kind of get a gist of the transfer student experience. So they tried to really map out the transfer student experience. And this project was done by transfer students. So it was transfer students to transfer students, this research project. And you can see along the top, they kind of go through a process of information seeking, preparing, and then transferring. And then, you know, having all these different emotions along the way of while they're realizing and researching, while they start applying, accepting, and then finally adapting to their new environment. So all those words of confusion, worry, optimism, excited, you know, lonely, it's like they're starting all over again. So I think it's very important to understand where they're coming from, just like many of our other students. And, you know, many of these characteristics do overlap both our high school population as well as our mature population. So not words or things that I'm sure you've never seen before, but again, this has been done specifically for the transfer student population. And I think it's important to kind of address the, you know, where they're coming from and not to just assume, again, that because they have some post-secondary that they're, you know, not needing of the same supports. In many ways, they actually need more support than other students. This is just some stats around our own students. So we just did a pulse survey at the beginning of September. and got a great response rate, about 40% of our transfer students that we surveyed. And just to give you an idea of who they were, they're on average about between the ages of 19 and 30 are transfer students. Many of them are OSAP recipients. We did a survey 3 years ago and it was around the same as well. So again, they're coming with loans and debt from other post-secondary. So that's, something that is a stressor for them. They also work a lot. Right now with this survey, we had about 39% not working, but that's obviously because of the pandemic. But as you can see, almost 30% of them are working over 16 hours. And again, the survey 4 years ago was close to about 40% that were working between 16 and 24 hours. So again, they're mature students, may have other responsibilities and definitely need to work. In terms of their previous post-secondary, a lot of them have completed university. So I think, again, there is an assumption that the people or students who are transfer students are coming because they failed out of college or they failed out of university or couldn't hack it, and that's why they're coming to college. That is not the case. We know that anecdotally from all of the students that we deal with, but the stats also show that. So 31% of them actually have completed university degrees and are coming back now for mostly college diplomas and grad certs. The ones that are getting transfer credit are coming for diplomas or certificates or advanced diplomas. 24% have a completed college credential, which includes a diploma, degree, or advanced diploma. And then there's the percentages there that have partially completed. So as you can see, they're coming from all over with either completed or not completed, but all of them are able to get credit. So on average, we're seeing about 3 transfer credits for a diploma student and about 5 transfer credits for a degree student. So many of those are in the liberal studies area. So they're really getting out of their degree breadth electives or their general electives. These are just some trends provincially. So again, we're still looking at around the 55,000 range of students who are transferring between colleges and universities in the province. Who is a transfer student? So the general definition of a transfer student is really someone who is moving from one credential to another and looking for credit at their new institution, but they don't necessarily have to be getting credit. Even if they don't get credit, they are still considered a transfer student. These are the top areas that we're seeing transfer students move into or move around in: business, social sciences, liberal arts, engineering, and health. And again, On Transfer is one of the resources that we send students to, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. These are just some, again, general transfer trends for Humber. We do see this swirling effect of students staying within about a 60-kilometer range within the GTA. And also, like I said, many of them are coming from universities. So these are our top institutions that we are seeing our university transfer students come from. Our transfer within trends, these are still some of our most popular pathways within the institution, from general arts and science to practical, all the way to child and youth work and our Bachelor of Child and Youth. So I'm not gonna go into many details about that. So in terms of provincially, what I wanted to talk to you about next is the TAG group, which is our transfer advisor group. And this is really one of the catalysts for, transfer advising in the province, and really bringing everybody together who works in this area and really starting to figure out how to professionalize it. So this is a group that is has been brought together through ONCAT, and there are all the picture there of our old transfer advisors, our current transfer advisors. Some of them are not transfer advisors anymore. And at these meetings over the past 2 years, since 2018, we've had over 125 attendees from, like I said, 45 different colleges and universities. We've had seven in-person events. And within this transfer advisor group, we had 2 working groups to come up with promising practices from one and the skills and competencies from another. And Jenny will be speaking a bit about that in a few minutes. We've also created an online hub where all of the transfer advisors can post our events, chat, post all of our meeting notes, and really just create an online community where we can connect. We've created an onboarding document from the surveys and the work that we've done in both of the 2 working groups, which is something that is a tangible resource for us to use with our staff. And the TAG group was also able to launch what's called the Map It project through ONCAT. It's an ONCAT funded project where we are going to each institution and mapping all of their transfer credit processes to then come up with a more kind of best practice documentation for the province. The goals of this group are really, to share and to really build capacity for individual advisors. It's also to help new advisors when they come on board. This role, what we've found is it's a very transient role. Many of the transfer advisors in the province are funded by external grants that we get from the government for transfer. And because of that, again, we see a lot of movement within the transfer role. Also, at the majority of institutions, transfer advising is not a dedicated position. It is an add-on to someone's either admissions, records, or program coordinator type roles. At Humber, we are very have dedicated student mobility advisors, and I will say we are one of the only schools that have dedicated advisors for transfer and pathways. So it's something that I'm very proud of, that Humber is actually a leader in this area in terms of dedicating resources and time to what we feel is quite important for our students. Again, we're also trying to focus on data and building more data for transfer and research. And we are feeding some of the ONCAT and on-transfer initiatives with this group. And again, how are we doing this? We do have a mentorship program that new trainees can connect with more seasoned transfer staff. The online Facebook page. We do the in-person events, like I said, networking and capacity building. And then going forward, we're obviously going to be looking at doing virtual and online knowledge sharing for the group. Unfortunately, we have not gotten together since the lockdown, but we have meetings set to go in the next month or so. So we will be focusing on getting the group back together again. So that's fantastic. In terms of next steps, a big thing for transfer advising in the province is really, again, the training piece. So we actually are going out for RFP to consult on the development of transfer kind of micro credential that we can offer to new transfer advisors in the province. So some of the leaders in this area have worked on the curriculum and are going to be partnering. We're hoping to partner with a post-secondary institution to be able to both develop the curriculum and and offer it to anyone who's working in this area. And again, as a micro credential where they can kind of come into it depending on their level of expertise. We are looking at transitioning this group into a more regional group because it is so large. We're hoping to have smaller regional groups and then continue on with the heads of transfer and articulation. So this is a new group that came out of the TAG group, which is again, leaders in this area who will help support the ONCAT initiatives and also push forward some more larger scale provincial initiatives that we see are needed in order to meet the goal, the provincial goal of creating a seamless transfer system for the province of Ontario. So there's lots of work happening, like I said, through ONCAT and at the provincial level, and Humber is part of that through our staff and the transfer advisor group, as well as myself, who is on the heads of transfer and articulation. So that's the provincial and the big scale perspective. I'm going to turn it over to Jenny to speak specifically about competencies. Thanks.
Judy, can you mute your mic, please? Because there's an echo.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Okay, so as Judy said, I'm going to be speaking a little bit about the core competencies for transfer advisors. So this is based on a recent survey done by ONCAT. This survey was conducted in 2018, and it had responses from 16 colleges and 15 universities. All of the advisors came together to kind of identify all of the competencies that we all see that we have the same. So throughout the survey, what we found is that approximately 91% of recipients say that a big part of the role is to problem solve. So here at Humber, in this role specifically, we do a lot of problem solving by working closely with faculty and team members in the RO to solve all the problems we face. So kind of what Judy touched on, the transfer students we get are not students who are aware of all the policies. So as a student mobility advisor, it's important for us to be able to know all of this knowledge in order to assist them with the problem solving that they need. It can be anything. It's anything from admissions, from fees, any records, international, and advising. In terms of policy knowledge, what we found is that as a student mobility advisor, you need to have policy knowledge across the board. So we look at things like ONCAT for resources in terms of seeing what other institutions are doing, and to help students when they're looking to mostly transfer out or transfer credits into Humber, we look at ONCAT as a big resource for that. We look at our academic regulations at Humber. So everything we do in this role as a student mobility advisor is guided through the academic regulations. So if a student comes to us and they're saying, hey, I want this policy, for instance, currency, we'll rely on the academic regulations in order to assist us when assisting a student. So like a lot of you here, a big primary part of our role is to advise. So at Humber, we do student-facing advising in the Office of the Registrar. That usually happens every day. So every day we'll have a time available for a student to come and speak to us. Now that we're online, we are finding it becoming a little bit more difficult for us to advise, but we are transitioning primarily to either a phone call or email-based advising. So that's what we're usually using now in order to counsel and advise students. So when we were in person, we did do a lot of presentations and facilitation. Paul will speak a little bit more to this, but some of the projects that we did work on was like Transfer Thursday. We would go on the road and recruit. We would hold presentations if any faculty were looking for presentations in terms of us speaking to their students in terms of pathways that are available. In terms of technical knowledge is pretty important in this role, especially when it comes to utilizing Banner. So all of our role is primarily using Banner in terms of inputting transfer credits, advising students by looking at their grades. We also rely on things like OCAS when it comes to pulling transcripts, and just going on to like other websites from other institutions in order to get the technical knowledge we need in order to assist students. In terms of leadership, we are it. We are a small group, but we are the ones who have strong knowledge for transfer within Humber. So a lot of advisors come and speak to us in terms of questions they have for transfers. A lot of faculty members come and speak to us in terms of questions that they have for transfer. We're paving the way. Essentially what Judy said earlier is we are one of the only institutions that have dedicated student mobility advisors in this role. This role is a transitional role where a lot of our other colleagues at other institutions are transitioning because this role is not permanent there. But at Humber, we are very lucky that we do have permanent people here in order to build on that leadership, in order to promote the transfer message throughout the institution. Judy, can you put it to the next slide, please? Sorry, Judy, can you switch it to the next slide? Okay, it looks like Judy might be facing a little bit of technical difficulties, but I'm just going to speak on the next slide a little bit.
Sorry, Jenny, is it not showing?
No, it's not.
Oh. Okay, let me just unshare and share again. Maybe it's, I don't know why it's doing that. Give me a second.
Perfect, thank you.
What now?
Yes, I can see it now, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so the transfer advisor skills, this is gonna touch a little bit what I spoke about earlier. So in terms of the skills that we use every single day, so manually transferring transfer credits is essentially our bread and butter. Our focus is inputting transfer credits. In summer 2020, we inputted approximately 2,000 transfer credits and exemptions. Our focus is to get transfer credits done quickly in order for students to make the best decision for them. So high peak times, such as the summer, such as the drop dates, such as enrollment time, that's when we really see where transfer credits come into play. A lot of students do wait for transfer credit results in terms of when they want to make a decision, especially in the summer. So one of the things that we do see is students who have accepted their offer and they have applied for transfer credits, if they're not getting as many transfer credits as they hope to, they will not accept their offer, or they'll decline their offer and attend another institution. So that transferring of credits is a very big important piece for us when it comes to our recruiting process in terms of getting students to, question, can credits be transferred? So we'll answer questions at the end. That's a very good question, but we will take care of it at the end. But to kind of touch on it, yes, students can transfer credits from international institutions. We do require a WEST evaluation and their course outlines, but again, we'll touch on that a little bit at the end. In terms of training and education to colleagues, we are the leaders in terms of advising and training our colleagues. So in the past, we have spoken to incoming PCs in terms of the transfer credit process. Now that we are online, I have had conversations with PCs online, but in person, I would go and speak to a PC in person and say, hey, this is what we're looking for in terms of when you're reviewing, looking at currency, looking at grades, looking at the learning outcomes, and trying to assist them in terms of the process. We also do train our admissions team. So this role used to primarily be with our admissions team up until about 5 years ago when Judy took over. And now we do have dedicated SMAs. We do still rely on admissions. Admissions does help us tremendously, especially when it comes to the advising piece and for them to take transfer credits. So although we are our own team, we do rely on our colleagues in the office of the registrar in order for operations to run smoothly. We also assist with training in the contact center. So in terms of if we have any new colleagues joining us in the contact center, we do offer presentations in in the form of a PowerPoint presentation in order to train them. We don't expect everybody to get all the knowledge that we have as student mobility advisors, but it is important for that transfer message to be out there. So let's say if you run into a student and the student's like, oh, I've done this post-secondary education, I don't want to take this course anymore, you do have the knowledge in terms of helping them or just even directing them into the correct person to speak to. So although there is a big piece there, 47% of our admissions, here at Humber, we rely on admissions in terms of advising, but we no longer rely on them in terms of processing individual transfer credits. The admissions team does still take care of our diploma to degree though. So if a student is looking to do a block transfer within Humber, that is still an admissions piece, but we do advise in terms of the recruitment side where we're looking for students to take our diploma to degree. So automatic transfer processing. So this is new and coming. Right now we are working with the systems teams in terms of developing a automatic process. It is in the works, so I'm not going to speak too much about it, but just like other colleagues at other institutions such as Sheridan, where they do have an automatic transfer credit process, we are looking to move that way as well. This is a project that has been in works for many, many years. Judy, can you switch the slide, please?
I'm not sure why it's not going.
Give me 1 second. Can you try unsharing and then sharing again in the meantime?
I'm not sure why it's doing that. Sorry, guys.
It's just some technical difficulties. I'm sure we've all faced it using Teams.
Let's see here. You see it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So weird.
In terms of onboarding new staff, so I did touch about this a little bit earlier, and Judy did say that we do have 2 new student mobility advisors. Kind of the good thing about COVID is it has allowed us to kind of utilize new skills and kind of force us to change the way that we're training. So with the 2 previous SMA advisors on maternity leave, we kind of had to pivot and train everybody online through virtual training. So I've recently trained our new student mobility advisor named Miranda Moore. She's primarily going to be at the North if we do decide to go back. What we did was we did online training. So we have created a online training manual for us, for student mobility advisors. And based on the manual, we went through it step by step in terms of her training. So what I would do on a daily basis is I would share my screen with her and I would kind of do my work. And I'd be like, hey, Miranda, do you see what I'm doing? And then Miranda would ask her questions. And Miranda, then afterwards in the afternoon, we would flip. And then Miranda would I would follow along with what Miranda is doing in terms of processing transfer credits, processing Pilar, and seeing any mistakes that she may be making. So it's been very strong. It's been very good. Like now that I see Miranda doing the work without me, I can say that, if you have any new staff that you do need to train through Teams, it is very possible. And if you have any questions around it, or if you need any assistance, like feel free to reach out to our team, because as a team, we have done a lot of work using Teams in terms of training staff. New staff at Humber. So as I touched on previously before, we do have PowerPoint presentations. So if your faculty is looking to get more information, or if you have a large group of students who are looking to transfer credits or who do want to speak to diploma to degree pathways, we are available to train staff, to help students, to speak to students in regards to all we offer for transfer at Humber. So as you know, we have Risha, who is also part of our team, and she has headway a lot of this in terms of the diploma to degree presentations. And I'm sure some of you have seen some of the work that Risha has done. We do also offer one-on-one sessions in terms of if a student is looking to come in to speak to a student mobility advisor, we do sit down with students. And now we do it through Teams, and we do it through phone call advising. And the last point is the transfer option website. I'm not going to touch too much about this, but our website is evolving always. A student who is looking, or if you need help yourself in terms of, oh, I don't remember what this currency rule is, I don't remember if this credit transfer over, we always advise everybody to check out our website, www.humber.ca/transfer options. All of the information is there. So that's it for me. And now I'm going to switch it over to Paul, who will help you with the next pieces.
So nice to see everyone today. So I'm going to talk a bit about how we advise students versus how we advise other staff members and faculty. Can someone give me a thumbs up that you can hear me? Everything's good?
Yeah,
we can hear you, Paul.
Perfect. Okay, so this slide here speaks about how we're advising students. So before COVID, we were a paper-based system. So that means students would either have to hand deliver their application, any documents like transcripts, obviously in a sealed envelope, anything like that would be hand delivered or mailed to campus. And then we would in our office mail it to the correct faculty. Due to COVID and the restrictions, we were able to pivot to a digital submission model, like Jenny mentioned. So students now email those documents, and then we have transcripts emailed in from other institutions. Students can still mail their transcripts or have them submitted through services like OCAS or WES digitally. But not being able to see students in person created a need for us to expand both our email and phone advising as well. So we've really been able to focus on that over the last few months. So we have a dedicated email specifically for students. It's transferoptions with an S at humber.ca. So students can email here for questions, for appointment requests. They can email their actual application and get feedback that way as well. So if a student is looking for an appointment right now, they would have to email transferoptions@humber.ca, provide a time, date, and phone number that we could reach them, and then we will confirm that appointment with them by responding to their email as well. So on the next slide, we're going to look at the difference between advising faculty and staff. So we actually have a separate email dedicated for internal inquiries and when we send applications to the faculty. So that is transferopportunities@humber.ca. So if a student emails transfer opportunities, they will receive, or if anyone without a Humber email address emails our faculty and staff email, they will receive an automatic reply that basically says emails will not be responded to, please email transfer options. But if faculty or staff have any questions, this allows us to have a focused inbox just on that, and it allows us to respond a bit quicker as well, so that we can assist you with advising your students without causing too many delays. We haven't really talked too much about PLAR in this presentation. Just as a quick aside, PLAR stands for Prior Learning Assessment and Recognition, and it allows students to get recognition for formal, informal learning experience that they've had, paid or unpaid. Basically anything outside the transfer credit sphere, students can pursue a PLAR. There are different faculty treat PLAR a little bit differently, so there are a lot of exceptions and rules involved. So if you have any students that don't quite fit into the transfer credit process, you can tell them to reach out to us or their program coordinator to get more information about PLAR and to see if they may be eligible. So we're going to move to the next slide here. So a bit about collaboration at Humber. So while we were able to interact with people in person, we had a few events that I wanted to point out. So Transfer Thursdays, which Jenny mentioned earlier, this allowed us to speak individually with students in an informal way. We had a booth set up, usually in a common area like the LRC. And students could come in and just kind of talk to us one-on-one as they pass by and get more information and to create more of a awareness of the transfer system at Humber. Our SMAs, our student mobility advisors, also did a lot of school visits when high schools were letting people do that. Not just high school, sorry, but other colleges and universities, different fairs in and around the GTA, as well as a bit further. So that is a really great way to connect with students. We are doing virtual fairs over this winter, which is very exciting. We have one coming up next week, the OCIF fair, which is going to be very, very interesting. I'm excited to learn more about that. And then different recruitment events that we would collaborate with faculty, either have them come with us to school visits or events within Humber. So able to collaborate with specific programs and things like that. So virtually, we have been doing recruitment fairs, both big and small. We also have our Instagram Live transfer talk. So we had one with our amazing student ambassador, Bright, who talked about his transfer experience. We have some more coming up with, I believe, Bob Richardson. So some more from the faculty side of things. So those are really exciting, and I definitely recommend checking those out. We also have some webinars that are pre-recorded. So we had our Get Transfer Ready event in June, this past June, and it's pre-recorded on our website, so you can go check that out still. And then we have diploma to degree workshops. We did 2 in May 2020, and we hope to do some more. But these are program-specific webinars that allow us to zero in on a specific target audience in conjunction with the faculty to make those students more aware of their specific transfer options, which is really, really great. So both in-person and virtual. We hope to get back to in-person soon. Thanks, Judy. And then Jenny, feel free to jump in if I'm missing anything, but I just wanted to talk about some of the resources for advising transfer students. So we have our website, humber.ca/transfer options. If we have some time, I'll walk you through it. If not, I'll give you some links in the chat for you to peruse yourself. On Transfer is a great service that is not specific to Humber. It allows students to access transfer options across all schools within Ontario, both college and university. Thanks, Jenny. And it's a way for you to kind of, if we don't have a specific articulation agreement, or if the information on our website is not satisfying the student, they can check out On Transfer to see if they can find something that works best for them. We also have virtual advising appointments, which I mentioned, and students can email us at transferoptions@humber.ca. And this is our postcard. So we have a digital version here. If anyone's interested, we can send them out a copy through email or through Teams. So this is just kind of a screenshot of some helpful information for students, as well as a checklist, just to get students understanding what their options may be. So Judy, did we want to go through the website or just talk about it?
You still have about 15 minutes. So.
Yeah. So if you do you want, so those are the resources there. Do you want me to unshare my screen then, and you can walk? I think you can walk them through the transfer in different pieces. Yeah. I'll unshare my screen. Okay.
Perfect. Can you all see the website now?
No, we see the presentation. I think you might have clicked on the wrong one.
You were right. Let me just do that one more time. Oh, this was working earlier and now it's asking for permission. One moment, please, everybody. Sorry, I'm not sure why it's not letting me share my screen. We practiced this before. Oh, here we go. Okay, now can everyone see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. So I'm going to share the links that we just saw on the PowerPoint, just so you guys can follow along if you'd like. So the way to get here from the main screen is we are housed under the admissions tab. And from admissions, you could click either pathway and transfer options or go right to transfer in. So this will give you a lot of information to share with students, as well as our database. But if we go right to transfer credits, this is kind of our landing page that we link to students most often. So this has our database. It is a way for students to see things that have been approved for students in the past. So once a student gets an approved transfer credit, currently from other schools within Ontario, then we will add it to the database and other students can see if their specific transfer is already approved, allowing them to apply without a course outline. But again, this is currently only available for other schools within Ontario. So if we scroll down a bit further, we will see a step-by-step guide, which is very helpful. Let's get rid of this alert. So it's very comprehensive for students to go through. The application form is linked right into step 3, but you can also find it at the top here. More information for students. And then down below we have FAQs, which are quite useful if students know to scroll down, but there are some things that are very common that students ask that will be answered in here as well. For example, can I apply for transfer credit directly for Gen Ed 101? the answer is only if you get all your other electives satisfied first. So then we have our application form, which I mentioned here. It is fillable online. Students can download it, fill it out, submit it in an email with all the other required documents like course outlines. So it's a very useful tool and also saves some paper. And then we have more information about our diploma pathways. So students can toggle between whatever diploma that they're in and find out which degrees might be available for them and how much time, as well as our $2,500 scholarship, which is a huge draw, and more information about how to apply below. And then the same kind of format for PLAR. So more information, just what it is, because it's not as common knowledge. And again, another step-by-step guide with some helpful links and FAQs. I also wanted to talk about our course outline system. So course outlines from across programs. So counting 1,000. So students can find course outlines up until the current year, and then in the future we will continue to upload more. And it goes back in case they are applying for transfer credits at another school. They can get, for this case, they can get up to 2014, 2015 year. If students can't find what they're looking for, they can reach out to the faculty directly. And then I mentioned some events earlier. So I just wanted to, also we link to on transfer and things right through our website. But we have our pre-recorded events housed here. So students can, right here, recorded events. So students can go back and watch our Get Transfer Ready event or a diploma to degree webinar. So we hope to have more there in the future. So yes, absolutely. The $2,500 scholarship that I mentioned is for diploma to degree students. So students who have a completed diploma within Ontario can apply for a degree. It doesn't necessarily have to be a established pathway. And then as long as they graduate their diploma with above an 80% average, they may be eligible for the $2,500 scholarship, which is dispersed in their first year. It's actually divided by 2. So they get half of that in the first semester and the second half in the second semester. But it is a large chunk of change. So students find that very useful, and it's a way to reward them for doing so well in their diploma studies. So I think I go through everything. I'll just touch quickly upon transferring within. So again, our diploma to degree pathway, as well as our Humber Foundation and General Arts and Science for students who want to earn those credits, or perhaps they don't have the credits they need from their high school. They will be able to take a foundational program and get those credits, or move towards getting their diploma and degree in the future. And Judy, yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, Paul, can you just click on the transfer out as well? So just to highlight here that all of our articulations are also here in our database for all of our international partners, as well as anyone outside of the province of Ontario as well. So students can look here for all of their pathway opportunities outside. We are going to also, if you go to the top, we also have a new area for pathway events for our partners. So we're now able to advertise events for our external partners, and especially now, a lot of them are having virtual events. And if you see at the bottom, we have already advertised our Humber Virtual Pathway Fair. So many of you may be familiar, the Humber does a fair in January where we bring on over 50 partners. We're always set up a booth style, fair style. We have moved that online. It's going to be February 2nd and February 3rd. We're quite excited about it because we're going to be able to curate a lot of content for each of the partners, and students will have access to that for, more than just one day. And then we also are going to support that with some live sessions, some live panel sessions with some of our top partners, as well as some partners who we feel are kind of hidden gems that students don't know about. So that's definitely something that you can be promoting to students who are coming to talk to you about future study options, that we will be having that fair February 2nd and 3rd. And like I said, that will be curated and housed on our website going forward. Okay.
Has a question here. The pathways that show up on the individual Humber program web pages through the widget, are those captured on this site as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. So everything that is on this site is also on the widget. So these are managed in our backend HQ, which manages the marketing, the website. So it actually feeds both parts of the website, which is great for us because we just make the change in one place and it will show there. So the pathway widgets, I'm glad you brought those up. Those are probably the one-stop shop for a student when they're looking at a program. So on the left-hand side of all of our program pages, we have admissions, fees, and pathways, as well as contact information. So if there is any type of pathway, all of them in, within, and out will all be shown on this widget here. So thanks, Paul. So that is also a great kind of one-stop shop for everything pathways. But yes, it's all fed from the same information, so it's consistent for everybody. Okay, and I know there was a question about international transfer credits, so I think we're good, right, Paul and Jenny? I think that's it for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can answer the question about transfer credits from international institutions.
Yeah.
So in terms of transfer credits from international institutions, yes, we do accept transfer credits. What we require are the course outlines. So if the course outlines are not in English, we do require a certified translation. We require a WEST or an ICAST evaluation. Preferably, we prefer WEST. It does have to be on a course by course basis, and then they would have to provide their application form. So if a student is looking to transfer one course from an international institution, I usually advise them just to take the course. The reason why is because there is a heavy cost for a WEST evaluation. The timeline for them to get that WEST evaluation, if they don't have it, can vary. Usually we see WEST evaluations come back in 6 weeks. Like that's usually the minimum amount of time. Sometimes it's longer depending on the schools, because what WEST needs to do is WEST needs to contact the institution in order to get the original transcript. So a student cannot submit an original transcript to WEST. WEST goes to the school that they attended and requests for that transcript to be sent to them in order for security purposes and to ensure that it's an authentic transcript. Yeah, but if you have international students who are looking for transfer credits, tell them to start early and you can definitely send them to us. So the approximate cost of a WEST evaluation is around $300, depending on which one that you get. So it's not cheap to get a WEST evaluation, especially if they have to get the WEST evaluation plus the certified translations. Those become quite a heavy cost. But for international students, they should start early if they are looking to transfer a lot of transfer credits. Usually our timelines is we do request transfer credits to come in 4 weeks prior to the start of the course that they're looking to take, in order to give us time to process it, in order to give faculty members a chance to review it as well.
Great question. Yasmin just asked, what is the maximum number of courses that can be transferred? Do you want me to? Okay, so we have a policy in our academic regulations that allows students to transfer up to, I believe, 75% of their course load through transfer credit or PLAR. But there are exceptions. For example, a student can only PLAR out of 50% of the hours for their placement. So there are some rules that are specific to certain courses. So if you have any questions about that, or the student has any questions, they can always reach out. I have, in my time here, which is fairly brief, I haven't seen any student reach that level of transfer credits that I haven't seen them get to a point where we have to start refusing on the basis that they've already maxed out how many they can get. So it is very rare, but it's around 75%.
There's a question about where they go for translation. So I don't think we don't have a list of translators. Again, that's up to the student to find. Many times, if it's French, some faculty actually can do the translation for French. So because we have many bilingual staff and faculty, so we'll try to help them with that. But any other language, it really has to be them looking for a certified translator. Again, that doesn't happen a lot, but it is the process if they need to do that. The other thing with international that everyone needs to be aware of is if they're coming through our international department, our admissions team evaluates their credentials themselves. We do in-house evaluation. So that's why they may not have a WES. And so then when they want to do transfer credit, it's kind of after the fact. So that's a bit of a gap for our transfer students who are international students because they don't need it for admissions, but then they need it for transfer. And again, transfer is different because we're giving them credit for work that has been previously done. So I just wanted to put that out there in terms of why sometimes we see students struggling to or see that as a barrier basically for students because of our current admissions process. If they're coming from another institution, then it's Ontario curriculum, which is fine. Or if a lot of them are internationally trained professionals because of their work, they've already done a WES, so that's good. But yeah, there definitely are some barriers for our international students, and if you want to refer them to us, we can help them in terms of figuring out the best path for them.
Risha has a question. Jenny, I'll throw it to you. What about transfer credits and full-time status for OSAP versus OSAP and visa requirements?
So it really depends on the student's situation. For international students, because of their visa and their study requirements, they are required to stay full-time. If they are staying full-time, we do advise them when they're submitting a lot of transfer credits to be aware of this process. However, we don't go in depth with them. We prefer to leave that to the International Center in order to give them the correct information in terms of their visa requirements. For OSAP as well, students can, for domestic students, they can apply for as many transfer credits as they want. There is a chance they may go down to part-time status, but they would need to connect with the financial aid department in terms of OSAP requirements. So for OSAP for visa requirements, they do have to stay above a 66%. And in terms of credit hours, and for OSAP, I believe it's 70 or 60, but do not quote me on that. I would prefer if you speak to financial aid just to be 100% sure on that. If a student, let's say if that situation does come up, in the past we have reverse transfer credit decisions, but that is not part of practice. We do it only on a one-off basis if it's like a dire situation. Once a student gets a transfer credit, that's usually the result, unless they come to us and they say, I need this reverse for this reason. And again, like it's not something that we promote. It's something that we only do if a student desperately needs it because they've gotten too many credits. For instance, if it's for their visa requirement or if they're over OSAP, but again, it's only a one-off.
I just wanted to quickly touch on something real quick. There is a charge for transfer credits as well. So it costs $25 per transfer credit, $50 for 2, and then $75 for 3 or more if the student applies all at once. And then for PLAR, we charge, and it's a ministry mandated fee for PLAR, it's $84 per course that they're applying for. So that can be a barrier for some students as well. Just wanted to point that out before we sign off. Judy, you're on mute.
Of time, we're at our time. So if there are any other questions, you guys can email us at transferoptions@humber.ca. And thank you for having us today. Crystal, I don't know if you need to do a closing or.
Yeah, Thank you so much. I really appreciate all of your time and your knowledge sharing. And I was actually taking a lot of notes. I found this so interesting. Like I found the word bubble at the beginning based on the provincial survey very interesting, and I think it really challenged a lot of the assumptions that we have about who our transfer students are and what their needs are. Thank you for sharing that. And it's also really interesting to see the competencies and the skill sets of the transfer advisors. And I think, sometimes it can be so hard to, there's a phrase that I've heard that I really love, which is like capture the magic of advising. And so I think that breakdown is really helpful to actually see like what it is, those skills that you use. Sorry, my birds are being loud. And kind of reflecting on our theme of advising without silos. And, a lot of times, like we're thinking just even within Humber and breaking down those silos and collaborating within Humber. But the work you're doing, you're breaking down silos across the province. And it sounds like you're, taking quite a leadership role on that. So thank you so much for the work that you are doing to make post-secondary more accessible for students and giving them like credit that they deserve for previous accomplishments.
Thank you.
So,
we're a small but mighty team, so we're
sure.
It's all for the student mobility advisors. They're fantastic. So I take my hat off to them. They're great.
That's awesome. I'm going to share a slide quickly, and I also posted in the chat. I'll repost it as well. It is a oops, let me just skip ahead here. It is a slide with a QR code and a link to our brief survey. So I'm just going to share that. Let's see if it's working. Why isn't it working? Bear with me. It wants to show the beginning of the presentation, but I want to share the end. Once again, I'm going to repost the link in the chat as well. I don't know why my slide doesn't want to work for me. Okay, I'm just going to post the link in the chat here. If you could kindly take a minute to give your feedback regarding the session, and I will stop the recording now. Thank you again to Judy, Paul, and Jenny, and also Risha. Thanks for jumping in a bit there. And everyone, thank you so much for joining. And I hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend.